Time now for a look at your health. As all parents know, our children are growing up way too fast, but new research finds it's especially true for girls these days. Young girls are now starting puberty earlier than ever. And to talk about what's behind this trend, some common signs to look out for, and the problems of early puberty, we're joined by Dr. Mitchel Goldman from UCSD. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
This is a really important topic. First, give me the signs that your child is going into puberty.
The first signs are pubic hair. So your child may notice a few hairs growing. And then also breast fullness. If they're getting some buds or breast tenderness, that's the other sign. And puberty or menstruation will occur about a year or two after that.
Okay, so what are the causes of this early trend?
There are so many causes, but the number one is obesity. The more fat you have, the more the fat will actually make estrogens. And the estrogens are going to cause you to go into puberty by releasing various hormones from the brain.
And the food supply is a big impact with
It really
this.
is too. You know, we're trying to fatten up chickens, fatten up cows, and we give them hormones. And so the food that you're getting may contain the hormones as well.
And you also said, and what they're contained in, the plastics.
Yes, there's certain types of plastics that contain something called bisphosphates, and that actually is like a phytoestrogen. It's a estrogen-like compound, so it can also trick your body into thinking it's an estrogen to start puberty earlier.
So is there something on the label we should look for?
Well, that's the problem. You do not have to put on the label if it has bisphosphates, but what you will see is if it doesn't have bisphosphates. So it may say on the label, does not contain bisphosphates.
Is that the BPA-free label we see all the time?
And that's what you want to go for.
Okay, let's talk about then the problems that result from your child going into early puberty, aside from maybe emotionally and mentally what that does as well, because kids get teased.
But that's a really big one. It's emotional and mental, and also, you know, kids that are 10 years old may look 18, and so that invites sexual predators and other things to happen that aren't very good. But besides that, the faster you go into puberty, the more estrogen is released, the higher your risk of breast cancer. So you want to try to tone that down. Now, when boys go into puberty earlier, they have a higher risk of testicular cancer.
And also, you said it inhibits their growth. They could end up shorter.
Yes, absolutely. When you go into puberty, you get this increased release of estrogen. It stops the bones from growing, and so people are of shorter stature.
All right, so what can we do to help our kids?
Well, the most important thing that we say almost every week on this episode is try to limit obesity. Try to exercise more, eat less. You want to get your weights down, because right now almost a third of all kids are obese, whereas just 10 to 15 years ago it was only 10%. So we have a definite problem with obesity. If we look at different populations, African Americans, 38% of African American women are a little bit more obese and go into puberty early. 30% of Hispanics, only 10% of whites. So it correlates with the obesity. So that's the number one thing we can do. Also, maybe switch to a little bit more of organic food, so that you're eating meats without hormones in it. And then the last thing is, if you're going to use plastic containers, especially to drink drinks out of, try to do the ones that don't contain the bisphosphates in them, the BPA.
It's a lot to think about, and certainly I know that when I go and I pick up my kids every day at school, the kids look bigger to me, and you think it's just you, but perhaps it's not.
No, there are things we can.
Up, I should say.
But there are things we can do. Let's keep them as kids for a little bit longer.
All right, no kidding. Isn't childhood great? Well, thank you so much.
Good
We
to be
certainly
here.
appreciate that, and gave us a lot to think about, Lauren.